Hi, everybody. It's Jennifer, your host of Said Differently. I have a bit of a different preamble and setup for the episodes you're going to see. We have split these up into two parts. Our guest is Brett Queener, who is the managing director of Bonfire Ventures. And we've broken our discussion with him into phase one is a dive into his experience as one of the first executives at Salesforce as they were bringing their go-to-market story to the market. And Brett, as part of Bonfire Ventures, also sits or has sat on dozens of boards in the companies he's invested in. So the first part, focusing on Salesforce's go-to-market story, is really about some lessons learned. And we really just let Brett kind of talk. I didn't really step in very much because he has so much to share from what he learned through that experience in Salesforce and their coming after Siebel in the CRM market. And I think there are a lot of parallels to that story today as we're now shifting. It's now not about moving to the cloud. It's about ushering in a new era of AI based products. So I think some good things that we can take away from that. The second part of the discussion is really looking at his perspective as a board member and investor and how he views go-to-market storytelling and messaging for his portfolio companies and the companies he advises as a board member. So he really walks us through some steps on that and how he approaches that with his companies in his portfolio and just kind of his take overall on the importance of story. So enjoy, and let's all learn from Brett and his amazing experience.
Every new startup that we invest in at Seed, we will go through a 5 to 10 hour messaging workshop
Okay. Yeah.
that the founder rightfully struggles through, but that's the point. The
Yeah,
pain
that's right.
is the struggle.
Yeah.
And it really just gets them to ask a couple, it's very basic questions. I start with, tell me your personas.
Hmm.
Can't be 40 of them.
Right.
Tell
Yeah.
me who buys and who influences. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for each of those, what do you allow them to do
Hmm.
that they cannot do today,
Yep.
that is new, that they care about,
Hmm.
that is better? They could do the same thing they're doing today better
Yes.
or more efficiently, same level of
Yeah.
quality, but I can do more of.
Yeah.
And every time, almost the founders will come back with like a bunch of features describing their analytics or their feature. I'm like,
Right. Right. Right.
no, no, no. Go back. What do you allow them to do? Okay.
Right.
And
Let's
then,
humanize this. Yeah.
right. And then who are the top? What are their 2, 3 alternatives that could be do
Hmm.
it themselves, competitors, etc. And for those competitors, what do they allow them to do,
Hmm.
and what do they not? And then to match those up, which is, hey, of the things that we allow people do, hopefully they cannot. And for the things that they can do for them, hopefully we can match.
Yeah.
Then we got something to work with.
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then go back. And the interesting thing is, I have to remind them they'll do this workshop once, feel good out of the gate, they'll raise money, they'll do a bunch of development. But now, in the pace of AI, we're rolling stuff out every month. I don't even know what GA is anymore. Our competitors are rolling stuff out. I asked them, go back to this. In fact, I had a founder yesterday. He's north of 25 million in revenue.
Great.
He's got
Yeah.
a new competitor coming, causing some problems. I'm like,
Sure.
go back and do the exercise.
I,
Because if we can do that exercise, then God forbid, when we have a human
mhm.
talking to a prospect, we can help that prospect. Uh, well, the other exercise to do when you get outside of that is then say, okay, prioritize these differentiations in economic value. Like,
Mhm.
are these increasing revenue, right? They're either like increasing future revenue, decreasing future cost, or de-risking existing revenue, or immediately reducing costs. That's it.
Yeah.
Um, because if I have that, we can then, as we build out the sales team and track our progress top mid funnel, we can understand like how effective we are basically doing the following, which is when you meet with a prospect, one, why should I look at this category? Like, why should I look at what you have within the permanent thing? What pain do you solve that I need? Um, uh, why this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? And then how do you do this better than somebody else? Why you? And then amongst everything else I need to do, why should I do this now? Right? Why now? So
Yeah.
it's like, why this? Why you? Why now?
Yeah. That's
And if
great.
you can, if you as an org make it sort of as an institutional muscle, what we allow people to do that they care about different, better than others, we can test and track in real time how effective we are against that. So, anyways, long answer to a short question.
Yeah, that's okay, Brad. No, I love that. And I love the framework. It's very simple, but it applies, I think, to both situations you encountered at Salesforce where you were directly competitive with an incumbent. And it also applies to like Appendo, where we got first introduced, to Troupe, where you're coming in and it's almost a new category that you're introducing, right? It is you're competing against status quo, not even necessarily directly a competitor, but the framework you described works equally well for both of those situations.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Penda one originally was why you need this,
Hmm.
which is at the end of the day, you're building a lot of capability in the pre-AI world, lots of screens, et cetera.
Yep.
How do you know it's actually being used? What's
Hmm.
driving value or not? And
Yeah.
then, how do you then go back like Buddha and clean your garden and make sure you're delivering the best possible product for the customer, right? And
Yeah.
how do you do that sort of systematically with data,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So some of the things you talked about in your discussion just a bit ago is it made me think about levers for growth. And, the go-to-market story and your messaging is one lever, right? So as you're looking at, well, how are we going to grow? How are we going to accelerate growth? Um, I would argue story often becomes one of the bottom things on the list that companies may look at. Right or wrong, probably the reality. They're looking at things like, do we need to hire more salespeople? Do we need to invest more in lead generation? Do we need to do something, right? There's a host of other things that they're looking at as a lever for growth. When do you think there's a signal that says we need to look at our story?
Well, you should be looking at it every day because
Oh,
at the end of the day, top to mid funnel, if you don't have top to mid funnel conversion, well, one, if you don't got any top, apparently you're just terrible at awareness or what you're speaking to is not a category somebody cares about.
that's true. Right.
Right. And to some extent, you might be in category creation land and not realizing that, I have people that are in category creation land and trying to do digital marketing that don't work. I'm like, if it's a new
No
category,
one knows to,
what keyword are you buying or what? Sorry, you're going to have to basically do a ton of high level execution and some sort of mercenary hand to hand combat on the sales side because you're
that's true.
creating a category.
Yes.
Um, but top to mid funnel conversion basically allows you to basically understand, is your messaging something that says, oh, I really should go look at this
Hmm.
because everybody's busy. And mid to down funnel conversion is basically your differentiation.
That's
You're
right.
either
Competitive.
you're either losing
Hmm.
or losing to do nothing, which is
Yeah.
there is an economic value. And so like you should always be looking at that. And so like when you asked about the levers, before we get into like product expansion, other areas, et cetera, that's another lever.
Sure, absolutely.
Like
New features.
like
Yeah.
your ability to spend money, whether it's in top of funnel MQL creation
Hmm.
or hiring sales reps that only really pay off if they get to close to quota in year two, after year one, then they're cash machines. All comes down to conversion rate,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And often it is true that it's convenient, and it is true often we have bad execution. We haven't trained our people correctly.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
People are phoning it in. We're not really
Right.
going at and running a good sales process. But that may be just because it's chaotic, because it's kind of inexcusable now with all the AI tools and the rest of it in terms of what's available to assist 70% of the manual work so that when our reps do engage, we can do so meaningfully if they're not lazy.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is true that often people will blame execution purely. If I had a better leader, if I had better reps, why can't the, et cetera, et cetera. Or if I had better marketers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think you always have to be paranoid. We were always paranoid. We grew up reading Andy Grove. There's this company still around. I think it's called Intel, called "Only the Paranoid Survive." Around, is our story good enough?
Mm-hmm.
And is it true? I mean, stories are irrelevant unless there's validation, right?
Right.
But and then really cool thing is, if you have a story and there's validation, and you make your customers heroes, then they tell your story. And that's where you start to see sort of crazy growth at software companies. So I would say we should be looking every 30 days at our business, both at the way I think about it is, what is the quality of the bread we're running through this bread factory?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Does it smell nice? Do people want it? Is it priced correctly? Da, da, da. Okay. And then tell me about the workers that are making the bread, packing the bread, shipping the bread, and selling the bread.
Yeah.
I think you have to look at both of those. And I think today more than ever, because you and I started our careers, you're younger, but I would say it's still probably a true statement, when the value of our product probably changed changed enough with this conversation with the prospect, maybe once a year.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Now it's like every 30 days.
Yes.
So your value prop vis-a-vis your competitor's value prop, whose products are changing every 30 days, you have to constantly be reassessing.
Yeah. Yep. Well, hi.
Hi.
Hi, sorry.
We're on a
That's
podcast.
okay.
We're on a podcast. We're on a podcast. Say hi.
We have a surprise guest. It's okay.
It's fine. It's a casual podcast.
It
We're here
is.
about storytelling.
It
It's
is.
fine.
Okay, so I totally agree with everything you just said. However, I'm gonna challenge you on something since you are a board member, an investor, an advisor, and maybe it's the board experiences that I have had, Brett. But the story that you're telling to the market rarely comes up in board meetings unless things are going really south consistently for several quarters. So when does it reach that level of visibility in your experience? Or does it vary from board to board and situation to
Look, I
situation?
want to think it varies.
Mm-hmm.
One, I think it varies based on the level of what I'll call intellectual vulnerability of the founder.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, you'll have to explain that one. All right.
Well, one thing I will say about when I was working at Salesforce, one of our mottos was celebrate our suck.
Okay.
What I mean by that is each individual, each team, each org. I'm sure it changed. It got super large and political.
Yeah.
But really assessing what are the 5 areas in which we are under delivering as an individual, as a team, as a department, that we need to go focus on.
Yeah.
And so that created a level of intellectual vulnerability to really dig, to look for where we're messing up, and think about what are your priorities. The priorities are, what are the 5 things that matter the most that we're not doing well at? We need to prioritize what we're doing well at. And so what I would say is, it varies based on intellectual vulnerability, which is a founder, often board meetings are performative sometimes. Whereas you can have founders who've met with their teams for a couple of days before the board meeting.
True.
And are very clear on what's going well and what's going not and why. Right?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, a board that's willing to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes board members will be like, oh, I don't know about the roadmap. Let's brainstorm the roadmap at the next board meeting. That must be, think about that as a CEO,
Yeah.
brainstorming with you. And then you do it. And then the board's like, oh, I don't know if I have confidence because we just had to brainstorm. Well, you just asked to brainstorm. So I think it depends on the level of what I'll call just intellectual vulnerability and sort of transparency between the relationship between the founder, the executives, and the board. It is true that you will dig into it more when things aren't doing as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because when things aren't doing as well and they were working previously, then it's unlikely that your execution, like your salespeople, suddenly changed. It's unlikely that your machine you're running suddenly broke. What is likely is that the ingredients to be successful to run through that machine, something has changed.
Right.
The board wants to understand what has changed in the market
Right.
such that nobody wants our bread as much as they wanted them before, or they're not paying as much for the bread as they were before.
Right.
And generally, if you have boards that are looking at stats, there are telling stats there. We will look at close rate and win rate,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Close rate is if I have a qualified pipeline, what percentage of it closes?
Right.
And when it doesn't close, how much of it is somebody doing nothing? Oh, I have an top of funnel urgency issue. We're not as relevant. Or our win rate vis-a-vis other competitors, we're getting our ass kicked.
Hmm.
So what's going on?
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so I don't think it should go on for a period of time. But generally, look, most board members aren't jerks. Running these companies is hard. They don't want to be me,
Right.
Brett,
Yeah.
at the board meeting going, hey, what about? What about? And it's tough, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
so I think you are correct that it either comes up too late
Hmm.
and it's too hard to respond, or it comes up optimistically, over optimistically about a new thing we're going to go do that's
Right.
not yet to validate.
Right. That's
But it's
right.
not. But it's not for want of trying.
No, it's not. I do think data has been missing, and certainly and we don't like to plug Troop too much during these programs, but one of the things we're trying to fill the gap in with Troop is to provide data around how well story is an influencer in your pipeline performance, because we haven't been able to really well isolate that. I mean, we have been able to on some vanity metrics, like did we get more open rates versus not open, on this versus that through some basic A/B testing. But a lot of it has been, are we even telling a consistent story across our entire go-to-market engine, right? You talked about enablement. Have we trained our teams well? Well, we may have trained them well. That doesn't mean they're actually doing it, right? So there's been a lack of visibility into how well are we executing that story. You talked about execution. But it is the before and after. If we change our message and nothing else materially changes, does the before and after of our conversion rates looks better or worse after we've changed that message? Can we start to isolate that as a factor in that? But without that data, everyone's operating off of gut feel and opinion, right?
Well, I mean, I also think this is a really unique opportunity.
Yeah.
I would say if you look at in any given software category, companies that won versus others that didn't, what is a common trait? Did they have better tech? This is changing the AI world, but in the SaaS world, they all use the same tech. They better go to market, better salespeople, maybe.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're better product marketers. And I've always been stunned. Now, I came from the school of product marketing, either at Siebel or at Salesforce. And I'm a product marketer myself. And how terrible people are at product marketing, how little they understand it, et cetera.
So true.
And they often think that product marketing is like for like a launch of a SKU. And I'm like, no, I mean sales product marketing. They're like, well, what do you mean by that? When your humans or your agents open their mouth or say something to a prospect at any given part of the funnel,
right?
How do you make sure they know what to say, no, or they know what they know what they should know, they do what they should do, and they should say what they should say to be most effective at that moment in time. They're like, oh, and I would say prior to AI, there's a reason why this deviation occurred, because it's a really tough skill. I would say I and folks like Kendall Collins and some of the other great CMOs that work with me back in the day, like, or Craig, who is the CEO of Qualified, we could listen to 2 or 3 calls and be like, oh shit. Okay. And that comment would be like either a rep our team was not communicating properly the value of our product.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, they might have been, but it wasn't resonating.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's a question of, is it an adherence problem?
Yes.
Or are we just wrong? Even
Yeah.
worse, it's worse to like, oh, I have complete adherence, but it's wrong.
That's
And
right.
so,
Right. That's right.
but like we could do that with a couple calls. We couldn't do it with 1,000,
You need it at
2,000,
scale.
4,000.
That's right.
But now at AI,
Yeah.
and so you would spend a lot of your time trying to listen to
Yes.
process. And then the skill was the synthesis. We could be like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what we need to go change. Oh, we got to go change this, and we got to drive it through.
Yep.
AI allows us to do that synthesis really quickly.
Oh, yes,
The
absolutely.
second thing is, even if I provided messaging, it was high level. It wasn't prospect specific. Oh, we could get like, oh, this is the vertical one. And then people would buy like high spotter and like decks and versions that they would put somewhere. But the rep would never use it. They use their own thing. But the question then is, how do I take the messaging and then adjust it appropriately to either the needs of the prospect or any data we have around what the prospect is told is engaging? Mm-hmm. And AI allows us to do that as well. And so there's this really interesting moment right here where product marketing sort of this like arcane black magic craft that is loved and revered in like only but the best companies and completely understood and ignored in the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, this is one of the things when I was talking to the team at Troupe, I was like, who's the buyer?
Yeah.
Product marketing should, I mean, if it were me,
yes.
Sure, my product marketing team would have bought this, but like I'm not, there's not a lot of me out there.
Right.
But there is this magic moment because right now everybody's looking at leveraging AI across the go-to-market stack to mix results. And I just posted on this on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. But they don't have context.
Right.
So like, you can have an agent taking your inbound call or doing an outbound call. But what does it know about your messaging?
Right. Yeah.
And how does it know to tailor the messaging to this individual?
Right.
Because it feels like, you know, that's what you need. Is it, who was it? Was it the Tin Man or the Scarecrow who didn't have a brain?
Yes, the Tin Man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like we have a bunch of AI Tin Mans run out there.
Right. So no, it was the Scarecrow. You're right.
It was the Scarecrow.
Yes.
Scarecrow, right? The lion didn't have a heart. Can't remember. But anyways, but Wicked, the next part of Wicked's coming out. I can't wait to see that. So I think we're at just this really interesting moment.
I do too. And you actually stole my thunder. I was going to ask you about your thoughts on AI on this. So this was perfect segue. One of the fears I have for AI, though, is for all of the benefits, it can also amplify things that are going directionally wrong. So if you have messaging that maybe isn't working so well, it can be a huge accelerator for that. And it can actually, you know, we also see the hallucination side of it. And is it going to make stuff up and fill in the gaps? And, you know, so.
Well, if you provide, look, yes. If you have a solution that provides the proper guide rails and the proper context, that's the point. And yes, I get your point, which is, oh, with AI, we have messaging that we can permeate very quickly.
That's right.
And maybe it's wrong, but here's the best thing.
Yeah.
If we're listening and tracking the results of that in real time, we can figure out it's wrong as opposed to waiting 6 months and waiting, as you mentioned, 3 board meetings when then realizing it's too late to react or competitors passed us by. Yeah. The idea is, I said it's brain, right? Brain in theory is supposed to learn. I'm not talking about a brain with executive functioning skills. It's one that basically goes, okay, here it is. Oh, wait. Okay, tweak. Oh, it's wrong. Oh, we need to change it. Oh, our competitors are saying the same thing. We need to come up with something else. Have the brain prompt the human and be like, hey, what do you want to do here?
That's right.
I think it's a really, really exciting moment.
I do too, Brett. I really appreciate your time on the call today. I don't want to take up too much more of it. I love the framework you laid out, and I love the fact that you're so involved with the companies of the boards that you sit on and taking them through that process. I think that's excellent. I would love to see.
Well, I think the key thing also as a founder, which is, what are we talking about when we do this messaging? Like if they want to raise money and raise the next round, another round, now VCs are underwriting to like huge exits, right?
Mhm.
Aside from traction, et cetera, what is it investor trying to ask?
Yeah.
Why are you going to win in the end?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you as a founder or a founding team, this stuff is really hard. And in the pace of AI, where you thought you had something interesting and you have to refine market fit like every 3 months because people are catching up on capabilities, it's important for you yourself to understand this messaging. And you could be wrong, but at least you believe it. That's what you're driving the company towards.
True.
It's going to be highly motivating to you. I had a conversation with the founder this weekend where I was like, I translated the why you need to make sure you can write down what it is that you allow your customers to do
Mm-hmm.
that others can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, short term from sales improvement and the rest of it. More importantly, bring that up.
Yeah.
Why are you going to win in the end? What is it that you believe? What is it you're building such that that can change? What I always tell people when they ship new features and new features and new features, I go like, great. Are you changing any of that conversation?
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And if we're not changing any of that conversation and engagement with the prospect around why this, why you, why now, then I don't skip the release notes. I don't really care. Tree fell.
Interesting. I love
So
that.
anyways,
That's
now the one thing
really
you should think about, we're running out of time, is AI is great and the rest of it, but humans really only have the ability to sort of comprehend 3 things, and it takes a while. So, the interesting question is how do you roll out this change in a way in which people can comprehend it relatively quickly?
Yeah. I love it. That's
Good.
great advice. Brett, thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time.
Jen.
Appreciate it. Yeah.